Welcome to In Our Community. I'm Gabrielle Antolovich, your host. And today we have artists. And we have Spinach Williams, who's with us, who's a photographer. And we have Dana Kipnis, who is the coordinator for Artsplosion.
Hello.
So it's great to have you here. And just to give you a backstory, the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ Community Center added the Q to the name to attract younger people. And then Dana came along and said, I would love to coordinate artists, young queer artists. And we were in heaven. And so this is kind of a rainbow show. But anyway, to get back to Artsplosion, when you came to the Billy DeFrank Center, what were your ideas?
Originally, I approached you with an art jam concept. The idea of a jam, my familiarity from it came from game developers. I have a lot of game developer friends, and they've been to a lot of art jams, and they've talked to me about them. The idea is you have a set period of time. Sometimes they do them in-house. They'll have like 48-hour art jam where everybody comes to one location, spends the night there, works on a game, splits off in a team, works on a game, and then at the end of 48 hours, they have something to present. Sometimes it's a duration, like in 2 weeks, the duration it's due, and I'll host them on my website. So make a game with a specific theme and then submit it to me, and I'll host it for you. So they're kind of ways to spur creativity in very short periods of time. A lot of these game jam concepts become bigger products after the event is over. Someone realizes, hey, this kind of worked really well. And so I really wanted to do that for art. I'm an artist myself. I do printmaking. And I tried to be an independent artist, and it was very difficult. And I ended up getting a job to kind of cover in between the money that you kind of need.
Right.
Which is, I wish I could have been an artist longer. So I said to myself that maybe I can use the center's resources, because I'm close with the Billy DeFrank. Maybe I can use the center's resources to do something to help artists. I thought my first idea was a jam, because I like hosting tight, fun little parties at my home. So I thought maybe I could host it at the center and get a broader community. And when I came to you with it, you said, no. You said, we just got new flooring. I don't want paint. I don't want pastels. We're a community center, so these things are expensive. And if something happens to the floors, we have to replace it. We serve a community. We can't just have messed up floors. So you said, how about we work on...
I can't remember saying no. But anyway, I believe you.
Yeah, I'm dramatizing it a little bit. But it was fairly like, I don't think we can do that. But how about we do something else? And you talked to me about First Saturday events. Mm-hmm. Because downtown has the First Friday. Some groups were doing First Saturday events, and since we're right outside of downtown in prime First Saturday area, we thought we can kind of tap into that. So I worked with you, I reached out to artists, and we coordinated our first Artsplosion to take place on First Saturday.
And I have to say that Spinach has been at every Artsplosion since then. So how did you find Spinach?
I knew Spinach online. Spinach is a member of our community, and we knew each other through friends. And
So what drew you to Artsplosion?
So I'd met Dana before, and at various video game related events, and before a few years back, I live in Oakland now, but I used to live in San Jose, and I did a lot of work with Debug, which was just up the street from the DeFrank Center.
They're fantastic. I love Debug.
Yeah, they're a really good family. And there were a few folks there that had gone through the DeFrank Center. There were some folks there that were that go through that center for a bunch of different events. And so I'd been sort of on the periphery of it for all of that time. So just hearing that Dana had organized an event down there, I was well, I definitely have to come through, show something. So started going, and the vibe with the other artists has just been incredible. So I've always wanted to come back to it, to each one.
Fantastic. So when Artsplosion started, it was some gamers and some other kinds of artists. So how did you get the variety?
A lot of the people I knew through Twitter. I'm a big Twitter user.
It's a Twitter fan.
It's really great for the local area. We have a lot of people in this area who use Twitter for all sorts of purposes, art especially.
Really?
There's a big artist community on Twitter. And Instagram and Facebook, I'm not on those, but Twitter's been really great to me. So I put the call out on Twitter, and I reached out to a bunch of artists I knew who were local or kind of local, and I said, if you have friends in the area, if you're an artist, please come to my event. And as well, I contacted the San Jose State Game Dev Club. It was a club that was started just at my end of studying there. And I knew the person running it, and I said, you have arcade cabinets full of student-made games. Could you bring some of those over? And they did. It was great. We have an arcade cabinet sitting in the corner full of student-made games. One of mine was on there, which felt really good.
That's great.
So I can get a really big variety just by putting the call out and telling people there's an opportunity here. Please come. It's free. It's free. So that was an easy sell too.
Well, I have to say, it's probably the first time the Billy DeFrank Center has had Twitter utilized to actually help create events. So you're a photographer, as opposed to what people think is art, meaning painting and drawing and creating games. So what draws you to photography? Because everyone has cell phones that can take pictures. So what makes photography special to you?
I was handed my first SLR when I was 17. I was ready to drop out of high school. And some folks from, I'm from San Diego originally, some folks from UCSD came down and started teaching an after-school program, and they handed me this camera. So I was like, well, I guess I'll finish school then. So like I just started shooting. Yeah, they taught photography and video, and the photography was all on film. The video was on like DV tape with little handheld cameras. So like they taught me to shoot, they taught me to edit, like all of that stuff. And then I've just been kind of shooting ever since, and I've had a lot of interest in like old cameras. I tend to shoot film more than digital, mostly because there's such a huge variety of cameras with film.
Yeah. Do people remember film? You know, those rolls of film that you actually put in the camera?
It's been having kind of a resurgence lately. It's a trip. There's a lot more film stocks that are actually being introduced this year, and Kodak is bringing back Ektachrome later this year.
Really?
Yeah.
So what has brought that back?
Just there's been a lot of interest. A big thing has been like the lomography cameras. They sell like little inexpensive plastic cameras that you can get, and a lot of fun film stocks. So like people will get into that. There are places that'll stock up on the old like Fujifilm and Kodak stocks and all of that stuff. So you can go and like get this, and people share tips still and everything. So like finding out like the old knowledge about using film and about developing for yourself, like that's all, like all the information's out there still, and it's interesting to dig up and like go out and try these things. And it's kind of forces you to slow down the way that you shoot. I think one thing that's happened is like when people go out on that first couple of jobs. My first job as a photographer, afterward, I felt like I had gotten in a fight. My eye was so sore. I had shot 700 shots. I had to ice my eye for 2 days.
Wow.
It was so bad. And like, I went online and I asked people what they do to like take care of their eye, and they're just like, one, shoot less. So I'm like, all right, I'll work on that part. Not to mention the editing is just a huge pain. So like,
Oh, yeah.
working with film, like I shoot a lot of medium format too. So like, it's not even the 36 shot roll of 35 millimeter. It's 12 shots on like big medium format film. So you get this, you're forced to slow down, think about what you're doing. Mistakes cost a little more here. So like, you've got to just like give yourself breathing room and like think about what you're doing, what you're composing. Every shot has to like have this sort of weight put into it, because like otherwise you're just throwing a lot more down the drain. You only get the 12 shots instead of triple that. So like, or instead of thousands that you get on an SD card, those are getting like cheaper all the time.
That's right. So that's how it's become an art, more than just click, click, click.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot other to it also. I feel like a part of why it wasn't considered art, and like this has been a thing like the entire history of photography, is because it's accessible to the working class. So like anybody can pick up a camera and start taking pictures. And so like because of the volume of things, folks decided that like, oh, this is worthless, it's trash art, you know, it's doggerel, whatever. So like people have made conscious efforts to really like put into it the experience of like their own eye, capture the way that they see the world. So like I think of cameras as little synecdoche engines, because they're like cutting out a little part of the world to represent the whole. So that informs a lot of the way that I shoot. And like other people all have their different eye, especially once you get into lighting your own shots rather than just using natural light and all of that. So like there's a lot that happens, and like no matter what camera you're shooting with, whether it's an old wooden large format camera or your iPhone, like the art of it comes from the photographer and not from the tool that you're using, and from just like the thought that you're putting into it. It's all of it's art, from like the huge like portrait emulation stuff all the way down to like whatever throwaway snapshots you've got. People just have weird gauges of what quality is. But yeah.
It's interesting you said that because the working class had access to it, it was no longer regarded as special or art. And I think that's an interesting piece, you know, in art itself and beauty and whatever people's definition is, if it becomes accessible to poor people, then it has less value. That seems strange to me, but it also makes sense in terms of how the dominant culture works. Have you found that?
Yeah, one of the groups of artists I've been reaching out to lately has been zine makers. Zines are small, little independently made books, magazines, whatever format really, and they could be anything.
Yeah.
The main similarity is that they're made on the cheap. Someone busts out a bunch of drawings, and they go to their local FedEx, Kinko's, or library, and they print out 10, 20 copies of each thing, and they staple it together, and they make a little book out of it. And I think that art's great. I think a lot of people, they look at a zine, and they're like, what is this, just like a faxed quality booklet here? It's really great to me that when you open them up, you start realizing, oh my gosh, this is full of great stuff. I've been looking down on this because it probably cost 10 cents to make this little booklet. I've been looking down on it for so long, and now I'm finally reading it, and this is full of great drawings or wonderful poetry or photography. There's a lot of autobiographical zines.
And social commentary, which is what, especially now, it's coming out.
There's some zines about how to compose yourself and how to deal with authorities. There's a lot of zines that are instructional. Not just, this is a story about my life. There's a lot of zines. There's some zines highlighting San Jose as well. There's a South Bay DIY zine collective. They were at the most recent Artsplosion. They had a whole zine library with them, and everyone could just come up, grab one, sit down, and take a read, and they were all full of such great information. And anybody can make one of these things. You say you're a zine person, and you make them. And I think that makes them feel cheap to people until they pick one up and take a look at it, and they realize this is great. What was I doing without these?
Exactly. You know what? I have these flashbacks when I see zines. We used to have poetry readings back in the 1960s, and we would make our own little poetry books ourselves.
Oh, like the chapbooks.
Yeah, and the zine scene actually reminds me of that. We didn't call it spoken word; we called it poetry readings, and so it had to be some form of poetry. And now, spoken word doesn't have to have any format, which is great. But, it seems that art, spoken word, photography, which is art, as you've explained it so well, is often the expression of young people in unique ways. And so at Artsplosion, there's so many different art forms. So can you describe some of the ones? What about the beads that
the
she
perler
finds?
art? Yeah, we have a perler artist who does. They're considered crafts. I personally don't make the distinction between art and crafts. I think that they're both great, and I don't have any problem with either one of them being in the same room together. But this craft artist, she makes like a lot of game sprites or character sprites, just elements from games. And you can buy your favorite little character, but they're a fridge magnet, and they're really fun. She's got new ones every time, and I keep buying them up because she keeps doing my favorite characters.
I know.
I'm going to have a whole wall covered in her work soon, and it's going to look great. So that's just one type of art. The last Artsplosion, Spinach brought the photo booth. So we had zines, we had perler art, we had a bunch of different zine collectives that were different than each other, and they were really great. And then the photo booth. I don't know if you wanted to talk about the photo booth at all, but that was really exciting, and I do want to.
Yeah, what was that about? Because I was there. In fact, I had my photo taken.
It looked really good.
Yeah, thank you. I came through and like showed photos at like the previous Artsplosions, and like for the most part would just be like sitting off to the side, and that got kind of like, I don't know. It's a cool event, but a day of just like kind of sitting off to the side with a table of wares it wears on you. So I decided that I would rather be taking pictures than showing them. So this photo booth, like we tried setting it up a few times. It was like difficult to try to set up in the initial like tiny space that we were in. So like once
the front of the Billy DeFrank Center. I just want to say that Artsplosion has exploded into the back where the large ballroom is, where you can have your booth.
Yeah, so like now there's enough space to do it, and so with this, this last one I came out with a couple of flashes set up with some light modifiers on them, had a backdrop, and like this kind of photo booth setup. It takes about 10 minutes to like put it together and to break it down. It's most of my full studio setup. Like this is what I roll out for people for portrait sessions, and I would just have people walk up and get their pictures taken, and like it was a lot of fun. Something like 36 people came through and like got photos. So it was really cool and a lot of fun. Just put everything up on the website afterward and let people like go and download their stuff. But yeah, basically the idea is having some way to just connect with people and like interact with them.
Well, that sort of reminds me that Artsplosion it's not just a display kind of place. There's a section in the middle where you can actually be drawing.
Yeah.
That was important to me as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to give people a reason to come in and stay. Because the longer people stay, the more conversations they get into.
Yeah.
My artists tell me that my sales were this and that, but the best thing for me was to be able to talk to people, and I met so many great people. And even if I don't get the artists a lot of sales, and I try my best to get the public in and get people interested in their great work, but the ultimate goal for me is community building. Getting all these artists interested in each other. I've already had a musician get interested in a game developer, and they're going to be working together. I've had a lot of people interested in each other. And the idea to create this big network of artists, I think, makes us stronger and more self-sufficient.
Right.
We all struggle independently as artists. We don't need to struggle independently. We can be together.
And it's an interesting mix. So this last Artsplosion was a collaboration with ZineCon. We've been to FurCon with the furries who are going to be at the next Artsplosion. And so that's exciting. And now we've also introduced musicians, which is also exciting. So all of the different mediums of art are coming together, and I think you've done an extraordinary job in outreaching into the different areas. And we had somebody come in who's interested in working on the spoken word.
I'm so excited for that.
So it's like, yes, the doors are flying open, and I really feel too, I'm so glad that you were inspired to do something different at Artsplosion, because you had the ability to do that. And not only ability as a photographer, but the ability because we're so flexible. You know, it's not one of those, this is how it's going to be. It's like, hey, let's pool our ideas. So how does that feel for you?
Oh, it feels great that I can just go like, oh, hey, Dana, by the way, I want to do this photo booth. And she's like, yeah, I'm really excited to see that. Let's get that out here. Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
The idea is to tell people, what do you want to do? And I'll see if I can make it happen. Because it's an event for the artist. It's not specifically for the DeFrank Center or for me. I try to be out of it. I mean, I'm part of it as a coordinator, but I try not to be a part of the event. I want the event to be for everybody else. And so if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I kind of want to display my game. How do I do that? I say, we have a projector. I'll put it on the wall. And they say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Someone comes to, hey, I want to do a photo booth. How much room do you need? Do you need power sockets?
Yeah, so let's move everything.
Part of the reason why I'm really excited to be working at the center to make these happen is because we have a lot of resources. Again, working to our community, we don't have to struggle alone. The center can help. We can all be a community together and really help each other out.
Well, I'm also hoping we can attract funding to some of what we're doing at Artsplosion. One of the things that the Billy DeFrank Center really needs is better sound systems. You know, I want to be able to have a screen that comes down and goes away, and have one of those projectors on the ceiling so nobody can tamper with it, and have, you know, speakers that are up on the wall, and really good microphones so that, you know, we can speak and have our word heard, you know, and especially with the spoken word. I've really noticed that some events, you know, people are and I want them to just slow down so you can really hear them. And then when they have a microphone that really works, it does slow people down because they realize they are being heard. Just like what you described with your photography, you are getting more and more mindful depending on the medium of photography you're using. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So, like, film is, like, really physical. I've been, like, there's a trend in, like, photography blogs and reporting to call film analog, but that, like, chafes a bit. This is like chemistry. So like you take your film, especially if you're processing your own, which I do with black and white. You take your roll, you put it into a tank, you make sure light doesn't touch it. You like put your chemistry in there. You're watching your times, you're dumping off everything. You've got to mind even where you put your chemistry, because your developer is like full of like silver and nitrate. So you've got to like have that, you can't pour it down the sink. So you've got to have a place to store it even. And so just like all of this, you have to be mindful of like every stage of it. And even if you're sending stuff out to get developed, like all of that has a cost if you are scanning it or getting it scanned. So like there's there's this weight, this physical presence to every bit of it. There's the archival of your film. So like I've got a little like plastic safe that's filling up right now. So like I need to get another one soon. But like there's just all this that comes with having something that takes up space rather than like being on a little SD card that gets like ever smaller every year. So like with this, you're kind of like, you're really like just heavily forced to sort of like slow down and think through everything you're trying to do. Things like testing out and studying, like doing studies to figure out like exactly how things are going to look by the end of it, you know, all of that stuff.
So how many midnight to dawn sessions have you had with black and white photography? Many.
Oh yeah, like I've been up late night just like designing lighting setups.
Yeah.
It's
a beautiful experience,
oh, yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And you with your pool of people, that must be exciting.
It is incredibly exciting. I love art. I love seeing what people make. When I went to art school, my favorite part was finishing mine early and going and walking around the class to all of my classroom friends and asking them, how did you approach this part? The life drawing, you have to be really respectful to the model, but I would do my best to be respectful and also see what other people were doing, because I really struggled in there, and seeing how other people handled the leg or the specific angle of the shoulders really helped me solidify my work. And I can't work alone. I'm not a good person alone. I need other people. And so it's so great that people come and surround me with all this incredible work and genres and media I've never heard of sometimes, or that I just hadn't looked into. I hadn't looked into zines before.
Somebody was making costumes.
Right, yeah, there's cosplayers as well. They're going to be highlighted a lot more at the next Artsplosion with the FurCon collaboration.
Yeah.
We're going to highlight both cosplayers and furries, because they have a lot of the similar things, and they make costumes.
Exactly. So we're going to have like a costume fashion show.
Yeah, masquerade. Yeah. There will be.
Masquerade, not
I'm really
fashion
excited.
show.
I'm really excited for the masquerade, because people, when I was at FurCon, there was somebody who was like a fluffy white dragon, but they had LEDs
This
along.
is going to be a photographer's dream.
It's going to be a blast.
I'm so excited for this.
They had LEDs, rainbow, all the way up their chest and all the way from their back, all the way to the tip of their tail, and it pulsed and shifted and changed. They look like a walking rainbow. It was incredible, and I'm so excited for more of that, because some people had like digital eyes. They had screens in their faces, and they can make expressions. So it gets me so excited. This huge variety of people means that I get to see so much amazing work, and it's so inspiring to me as an artist. It's so fulfilling to me, and that's really what I get out of Artsplosion. It's just this community is exactly what I need. Being able to help people who are in a situation that I was in, and ultimately I had to bail. I had to get a job. Some people can't. Some people don't have the qualifications that I do, just because of my life circumstances. And so I want to be able to help people who are really sticking it through. And I think we can do that.
I know. There's so many medium. You know, you triggered my memory of Debug, where they teach young people how to do silk screenings so they can make design and make T-shirts and photography and all kinds of digital art. So it's pretty amazing, you know, what's out there.
They've got the dark room there too, the black and white dark room. There's Adrian with the silk screening. There's, they will teach people video, like.
Oh, and anything. So we're going to invite them next time.
I've reached out to them, haven't heard word back, so we'll keep trying.
Anyway, we have run out of time. So thank you, Spinach Williams and Dana Kipnis, for coordinating Artsplosion at the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ Community Center. Thank you so much.